Hey, what's going on, guys? How all you doing? Welcome to a new video, or to the part 2 of making the drag and drop using a native JavaScript. So here we are in the second part after covering the first part, only the dragging system. So the click, the moving the item around the page, nothing else, or nothing more, nothing less. So all we have implemented in the last video tutorial is just dragging the to-do item around the page, and that's it. So we haven't implemented yet the snapping and the hover item, where we get that like the container that show us that we're gonna like put this item into this specific location or under this specific position, and yada yada yada. And also when we release that, we don't get this effect where it just gonna get snapped into the right position. So today's video tutorial, I'm gonna implement all of that. I'm gonna finish the tutorial of the to-do item and of the dragging and dropping. Pretty much in this video tutorial, I'm gonna implement the dropping and snapping into the right position and into the to-do container. So as I've said in the last video tutorial, only cover the to do or only cover the dragging system, and we have talked about a lot about the on mouse down, mouse move, and mouse up events, and which events actually gonna like allow us to move an item around the page or drag an item around, or drag any element actually using JavaScript around the page using native JavaScript. So for today's one, what we want is create like a multiple containers into the to-do container, like invisible containers, and whenever we take that item into one of these containers, the container that we are currently hovering over is just gonna like show up, and we're just gonna say some kind of a border or something that gonna show us that I'm gonna put the to-do item into this particular location. So just gonna preview or something, and whenever we release that, it's just gonna go right into this position that we have been seeing. So for this particular job, what we're gonna create is like a virtual items. Let's say we want to create 6 item fields into this to-do container. So just gonna go ahead and loop through and create 6 containers in here, like small containers, the same size as the to-do item actually. And whenever we create that, we're just gonna set them to invisible, so the user won't be able to see them like normally in here unless he takes the item and hover and like drag and hover over the one of these containers, and it's just gonna show the currently hovered on or the currently over on container. So that's how we can use we can create the preview effect. So with that, let's go ahead and create new items using the JavaScript, and we can add them to the DOM, or to be more particular, add them to the to-do container item. So let's go ahead and create that. So for this particular job, we need a for loop. So let me just go ahead and create that. So I'm just gonna call it let's I equals 0 and I less than, let's say j. Let's just gonna go ahead and create 6 containers in here. So 6 and I plus plus, and just gonna create that. So in this particular containers, what we want is create a div. So each div, and then append each div to the DOM or to the to-do item container. So let's just go ahead and create that. So let me just call this like snap. So since they're gonna be like the snap or the position we want to snap the things in, and just gonna go ahead and use the document.create element, and the create element here we specify which elements we're gonna create. In this particular one, we're gonna create just a div. As simple as that is how we're gonna create an element. Also, what we want now is to add this element into this particular container. So add it as a child, and if you can remember in the last video tutorial, we have actually like the, as you can see here, the to-dos container, we have references and it's under the to-dos container variable. So this is like the same container in here that we are referencing. All we're gonna do is just call to-dos container dot append child, and we can add this particular child in this container. And to be a little bit more specific on this case, we're not going to add only one child to this. We're gonna add actually 6 child, since we are in the loop, and each time it's just gonna go ahead and add a new div to the to-do container. So for that, we're just gonna reference that, and we're gonna say to-dos container dot append child, and for appending a child, just gonna give it the child we want to append, and here we go. So here we have appended the child, but we still can't see anything in here. We can't see like if the child has been successfully added to these to-do containers, or they have been added to the DOM successfully or something like that. So that's why under my CSS, I have already created that style, as I've said. So it's already predefined into the first part of this video tutorial. So just go ahead and do my website, and you're gonna find all the parts. As you can see, native drag and drop. Just click it, and you can find the full style in there. So just go ahead and make sure to take a look in there if you really need the style, as I did. As you can see, app structure, and this is the full style I'm gonna use. So just copy it and paste it if you're really intending to use my style. So here, the most important part is the snap class. So this is gonna be like for a single snap container. So just gonna have like a width and a height of 30 pixels, the 101 pixels for width, and also margin between both or two snaps like alongside each other. Also, this is the overclass, and the overclass, what we wanted is to add this overclass into one specific snap container only when we are holding the to-do item and we are currently hovering over the current snap. So that's how we can show up that we are currently hovering over like snap container. So just by showing the background color and also a border, and we're gonna give it also a border radius. So it's just some kind of like a previewing and giving it some real nice background. So we let the user know that we're gonna put this to-do item into this particular area. So for that, here we need to add a new class. So let's just go ahead and append this class to it. So just gonna say snap.className, and the class name is gonna equal to snap, as you can see. And just for now, for testing purposes, let's just go ahead and add the over class, so we can like say we are going to see in this particular thing. So as you can see here, we are seeing each one, and we are seeing like the snaps taking part of each other. We can also go ahead and do the style in here and like margin top between each other. Let's say gonna go ahead and 15 in here and also 15 in here, just to make like some padding between them. Also, let me just add this into 20 and also this 20, just to make it looks a little bit prettier. 25, let's say 25, I don't know, 25, does it gonna fit? Oh, actually it fits pretty much perfectly in here. As you can see, we are adding all of those in the perfect way. So just adding the over class will allow us to just take a quick snap pic of what we're actually implementing, or actually what we're actually adding to the particular DOM. Let me just remove that since we don't need it anymore. And now what we want is to check if this to-do item is under one of these snap containers. So this is like the most important part on this particular tutorial. So to check that, there isn't like actually an event to take this to-do item and check if this event is happening under another element or something like that. So we need to create a custom function that is gonna just keep checking if an item is currently over another item, which means if an item is currently colliding with another item. So this is a little bit more for the physics and stuff like that. So it's not that hard, but I've already gone ahead and made a function. It's like a very simple function actually. So I've called it do collisions. So let me just go ahead and copy paste this function in here. So as you can see, this is the function. Also, you're gonna find it in this particular tutorial. Just go ahead and find this particular the recent tutorial, and you can find this particular function, the source code of this function. Just grab it, copy paste it, and you are ready to go. So do elements collide, and this function takes element 1, element 2, and it checks for the collision between these elements according to the position of this particular element. You can go ahead and read through, try to understand what it does or what is actually this function doing. But it's very simple. But you know, we're gonna use that, just the predefined function. So here what we're gonna need to do is to give it the element 1, the second element, and it's just gonna return either true if they are colliding with each other, or false if there's no collision at all. So for that, what we need is to keep checking every single time interval if this to-do item or any other to-do item, since we're gonna create multiple to-do items, if any of these to-do items are currently over or colliding with any snap containers. Since we have 6 snap containers, so we're just gonna loop through all the snap containers, and we're gonna check the collision between the to-do item and a snap container or a snap item. So for that, we need to take this function and give it the to-do item and snap on this. So for that, we'll just go ahead and we need to, as I've said, always keep the check between the to-do item and any other one every single second. So to say that's a second isn't pretty much that enough. So what we need is to take a little bit more less time than a second, which we're going to use 100 milliseconds. So we're just going to use the function setInterval. And if you're not familiar with this function, it's a predefined function with Java, so it comes in predefined, so you don't need to include it actually with no library or something like that. So with the native JavaScript from the DOM. And setInterval is going to execute a callback or call a function. You're going to give it this function every single time interval, or every single second, or every single I don't know, some kind of timeout you set. So the first thing, as I've said, it takes a callback, so I'm just going to use an ESX arrow callback. And the second thing, it takes how much like the duration between a callback and another callback. So in this one, I'm going to give it 100, and it takes in milliseconds. So this represents 100 milliseconds. Simple as that. Let's just go ahead and use this setInterval. Now, each time we need to check the collision between the to-do item and any other snap container. So here we need to loop through all the snap containers that we have created in here. So we need to loop back through them again. So let me just go ahead and grab these snap containers in here. So we need to loop through them, but before looping through them, we need to get them, or we need to reference this HTML collection of snaps, or the array of snaps. So that's gonna call it snaps equals documents.get elements by class name. Here's the class name, and just gonna give it the class, since we have assigned, as you can see here, top in here, we have assigned the snap class to it, so we can use it right out of the box. So we'll just go ahead and reference that. Now we can loop through each item in there. So I'm just gonna say for let I equals 0, and I is gonna like else or less than snaps.length. And actually we have here hard-coded like length, which is the sex, but we can use this anyway. And here we loop through that. Now what we need is each time we check if this to-do item is currently in collision or no with this to-do item. So if it is in the collision, we need to show the currently collided with a container or snap container. Else, if it's not in collision, we do nothing. We just discard everything and just keep looping and checking again. And for this, what we're actually going to need to do is to use our function. So we can call f. So here we call f do elements collision. So this function that we have predefined in here, and actually this function I'm not like declaring it. Let me just declare it using the let's. So we won't get any like problems or something. And we say if do elements collision, so we are in collide with this to do item. So here, how we can reference this to do item. There's a really nice way. Also, if we are intending to create multiple to do items, this way is gonna be like the perfect way to do that. So remember when we use the on mouse down. So whenever we click this item, we need to put or to store the currently clicked item, the last clicked item, into a variable, so we can use it later on for checking the collision between the items and the snaps container. So with that, let me just go ahead all the way up and create that variable that's going to hold the currently clicked or the last clicked to do item. So just going to call it current to do. And the first time, we're just going to equal to null, and we can assign it whenever we click something in here. Just go ahead and assign that into there. So into here, so current to do gonna equals the current item, and remember this item represents a to do item, and here everything's gonna be set up correctly. So here we can pass in the current to do, since we are already holding the current item. The second thing, just gonna snaps the snaps.i, which represents one of these snaps that we have created, one of the 6 snaps that's under the to do's container. And here it checks of that. So if there's any collision, we need to show this snap, which means we need to append the new over class. Remember, the over class currently only having the snap class under that, so we need to add the over class into this or one of these items. So therefore, you can go ahead and add one of these under this item, so we can access this. We say snaps.i.className, class name, and we say plus equals, since we're going to append to the string only, and we use a space since we already have a class. So classes or multiple classes under one element need to be separated between spaces, so this is like space for separation. And here we go, now we have added the over class. But there's one problem actually, is when we hover something here and we add the class, it's just gonna be like stuck in there, and we won't be able to like rehide something or rehide the snap container whenever the to-do item is out of the collision with the last snap item. So you can clearly understand that. So to do that, we need to each single time to remove the over, if there's any overclass in that. If there isn't, we're just going to discard this, but each time we check if there is an overclass under the snap container, we need to remove it. So we're just gonna like avoid any problems. So before checking a collision on each loop, we need to just go ahead and say class name equals snaps I dot class name, and here we can remove things up. So class name dot replace. So replace is a predefined function in the strings, and remember the class name is a string, so we can replace something with something else. We replace a string under this class name, and this string we're gonna replace is the over, and we just want to replace it with an empty string. So that means we're just gonna remove the over class from the class name under the snaps, each snap, and whenever there's a collision, just gonna show that, and so on and so forth. So here it should pretty much now check for the collision and do everything. So let's just go ahead and drag that, and as you can see, whenever we are hovering over the snap container, it shows up. We just go over all of those, as you can see, in a very nice effect. So whenever we are hovering over some like snap container, it shows up, it shows this border. So just gonna let us preview where we're just gonna like drop this to do item, and whenever we move, it's just gonna hide the last one and show another one that we are already currently colliding with, and so on and so forth, in a very nice way. So as you can see in here, it looks pretty good, and whenever we are out, everything is gonna just gonna be hidden away. Now let's create the way of snapping things. So whenever here, as you can see, whenever we drop this, we get no effects. So this to do item doesn't go and snap right into the position. It's just gonna stay into the position, like the position we have dropped it in, and nothing happens, nothing crazy going on behind the scenes in here. So what we want is whenever we drop this, it's just gonna go ahead and snap into this position, the right position. So to do that, we need to replace or take this position and make it the same or equals to the snap container position. So with that, let me just go ahead and create a new function. I'm just gonna call it snap to do. And the snap to do, the first one is going to be like the to do, and the second one is going to be like the container. We want to snap the to do in, and just going to call it container, and here we go. So this function is just going to allow us to snap the to do into the position of the snap. So for that, let's just go ahead and create a variable. We need to get the position of the container. So there's like a function under JavaScript that's going to allow us to do that. So remember, the container is an element, so we can use get clients. I believe it's the function of using get bounding client rectangle. So here is it. Here's the function. So this function gonna allow you to get an object. We're gonna hold it into the box variable, and this object has plenty of information into this element, which hold the X position, the top, the left, the offset, the width, and the height, and so on and so forth. So many informations that we are actually going to need in order to take this position of the to-do item and make it equal to the snap container position. So get bounding client rectangle into the container. Now, after checking that, we need to like take the to-do item current position and make it equal to this same position. So we can say to do dot style. So remember that this to do is like having an absolute positioning. So make sure to do that. And I'm just gonna say the left. The left represent the X axis or the X position of the to do element. So we're gonna say just box dot X, and the second thing, we're just gonna go ahead and to do dot style dot top equals box dot Y, and this pretty much won't work for us, since the style, if you can remember, the style left and top takes like a string with the pixels at the end. So this one, it only holds a number without just a pixels at the end. So what we need is just to append pixels, and this is gonna like return us a new string holding a pixels, or prepending or appending actually pixels at the end of this Y position and X position. Now everything should be set up correctly. Also, there's like one offset that we need from the offset of the page. So just here, try to add 10, in order to make everything looks normalized and everything looks good enough. So here, everything should looks pretty much fine. Let's go ahead and use this function and do here. So what we want is to tell whenever we take in that and we drop it, so only when we drop the to-do item, it's just gonna go ahead and stop into the position. So how we can say to do, like how we can check if we are dropping the element using an if statement and saying if not is mouse down. Remember that we have this variable is mouse down. So if checking if not mouse down, which means if the mouse is not down, then you can snap to do, and the snap to do, remember what it takes. Just copy that to make sure everything is working pretty much fine. And the snap to do takes the to do, and which is the current to do. And the second thing is the currently hovered on snap container, which is the snaps I, and here we go. Now if we try to take this to do item all the way down, let's try to snap it in here, drop it, and as you can see it takes into the position, but it's not actually the right position that we are intending to do it, but it takes into there. Somehow it can't actually find the regular position, and as you can see I'm crashing. So let me just save the work, and everything's saved now. Let me just refresh everything. Sometimes some bugs happens with CodePen and your cursor is stuck or something like that. Just try to refresh the page and you are good to go. So here, try to put that, and as you can see, get this offset. And this is mainly because adding this 10. So I try to make it looks good, but it doesn't look good actually. So let me just try this again, put it in there, and we still get this horrible offset. Let's try to like minus 10 plus pixels. Just go ahead and put that in there. Try again, and as you can see, it gets right into the position. Just try to manipulate that in order to make it fit yours. Sometimes it just gets very weird with positioning and stuff like that. Just try to manipulate the numbers till you get the right result. So as you can see guys, here try to drop it or drag it, drop it over here, it's just gonna snap right into the position. So as you can see, drop it, it gets right into the position. So that was actually guys for today's video tutorial. Very simple, very basic, and very flexible tutorial. So thank you guys for watching again. I really do hope you enjoyed. So I will catch you all guys in the next video tutorial.